Welcome to the Speak Like a Leader podcast with John Bates. Welcome to the show. With me today is Dean Wegner, and he is the CEO and founder of Authentically American, which is a veteran-owned, American-made premium apparel brand. And he is a West Point graduate. He served 7 years as a helicopter pilot and Army Ranger. And then when he came back, he worked with Mars, he worked with Procter and Gamble. And then in 2017, he founded his company, Authentically American. And I think that you will see why I asked him to join me. He's someone who's very knowledgeable, very passionate. He loves God. He loves his country. He loves, I think doing the right thing. And I'm just glad to have you, Dean. Thank you for joining me.
I appreciate that, John, and absolutely looking forward to a fantastic discussion.
Cool. So, tell us a little bit about Authentically American, because I do think it's really cool. And I think that, I don't want to go to politics. I do want to acknowledge that things are just crazy in the world right now of trade and made in America and not made in America and all that kind of stuff. And that's not really what I find so exciting about what you do. I think what's really cool is that you are making great stuff in America, hiring Americans. It's a veteran owned company. And I think you've got just a cool business and a cool business model. So tell us a little bit about how that came about and what it is you're doing.
Well, John, I appreciate you bringing up that perspective. And since you mentioned politics, let me do a quick disclaimer, because I'm not even going to touch on anything political, because when I've asked before, Dean, how do you and your company align? I say, as a business, we're not red or blue. We're red, white, and blue. We believe in the American worker.
Okay. Thank you. That's exactly, amen, brother.
Yeah. And John, if you go to our website, if you go to authenticallyamerican.us, you would see that the heart of our mission is our passion for creating American jobs. We just happen to be in the apparel business.
Yeah.
And that's who we are. Authentically American, we are an apparel brand. Think of us like a Nike or Land's End, but instead of made in China, it's all made here in the US.
Yeah.
Just to give everyone an idea how rare American made is, because most people have no idea. All the way back when I graduated from West Point in 1993, over 50% was made in the US. Today it's 3%.
Wow. So you're part of 3%. Yeah.
I mean, astonishingly, shockingly small. And again, back to the heart of our mission, we want to make absolutely incredible apparel, your new favorite t-shirt that everyone loves. But that key point of differentiation, what really drives us, is that mission focus on being American made.
Yeah. Cool. Well, and you guys, it's not like you're just like, yes, you're cranking out apparel, but you've got some innovative things, right? Like, I don't know if you have one of those t-shirts you showed me around right now, but I got to imagine you do.
Well, I always do have some fun tips and tricks right by my side, and would love, if you're okay, I'll do a quick product demo for everybody to see.
That is what I'm asking. I don't usually ask people on the show to do a product demo, but I think this is so funny. And I think my listeners will appreciate it. So I think it's awesome.
For those who are tuning in just audio, I am holding up a gray Army West Point t-shirt. And I wish, John, the listeners and you were all here, because if you could feel this, you'd be like, Dean, that has got to be the softest t-shirt I've ever felt. And that's by design, because who doesn't love a nice soft t-shirt? And it's not just the fabric. We use a soft hand print to include tagless.
Yeah.
But this is the special innovation, the fun sweat activated print innovation that John's talking about. So printed, it says Go Army, and I'm going to spray the t-shirt. And there, John, you can see two of my favorite words magically appear, those being Beat Navy. And for those who may be tuning in on their phone, I'm going to turn it around, and there's our vintage U.S. flag, and a little bit bigger. Yeah, two of my favorite words there.
That's so funny.
Beat Navy.
By the way, Chris Cassidy, Navy SEAL, Diego Ugalde, Navy SEAL. My buddy Tony, in the Navy in intelligence. You guys got you gotta. We need to get you around to get the Navy shirts that probably say "Beat Army," but I don't know if you
Well,
even sell
John,
those, Dean.
you are touching on a very sensitive subject, especially a lot of with a lot of my West Point classmates.
Yep.
But I tell everybody we don't discriminate. Even our Navy friends deserve amazing American-made products. So there is a Go Navy version.
There you go. That's so funny. That's so funny. Well, I think that's cool. You put your money where your mouth is. Like you're
Oh,
not just
absolutely.
one side, you're both. Yeah, that's cool.
And John, here's why I'm glad you started early on asking for that product because we talk a lot about being veteran owned, how
Yeah.
important it is to choose American made. But I've literally had people say, Dean, no offense, I don't care where it's made. The shirt is so incredibly soft
Yeah.
and comfortable, and that technology is just amazing. It's my new favorite.
Yeah.
And at our core, we are a consumer brand, we're an apparel brand. And that's mission number one for us is deliver an amazing product experience. Because if we don't deliver on that, who cares where it's made? Who cares that we're
Well,
veteran owned? Nothing else matters.
right. Yeah. Like it's not an excuse to make a lesser product, right?
You got it. I think you got to
So
raise the bar even higher being American made and veteran owned.
I think you do. I totally agree. And you guys have an interesting business model because you've got your own apparel store, but I think I got to imagine that a big place where you uh, make money too is for doing like custom branded apparel for big company events or whatever, right?
Yeah, most people don't realize the extent that we are. So 90% of our revenue is custom. So
Okay.
we work with thousands of businesses, John. Many of them are veteran owned. They are all patriotic and they don't want their employees wearing a t-shirt that's made in China or a Nike polo. They want a brand like ours. They just don't know we exist, which is why I'm so thankful for the invite because now all of your listeners, your audience, we get to hear and learn more about our brand and understand that whether you're an individual consumer, an Army, Navy, or anyone as an individual wants this amazing shirt, you can do that. Or if you own a business, you're a key leader in a business, or you lead a charity, there's now an opportunity for you and your business to make an intentional American made choice.
Yeah. Well, so I'm going to have to talk to you about John Bates at some point. I got to find out what your minimums are. But that the reason I wanted to start with your business and your focus on American made is because there are a lot of people out there who make noises about that stuff, but you gave your life to being an Army Ranger and a helicopter pilot. Like you put your money where your mouth was. And so, I think that when you talk about America and what it means to you and American made, I think that you've got the cred to talk about that in a way that's a little different than a lot of other people. So I want to acknowledge you for that. And I would
Oh,
love to go back and hear a little bit
let
about
me
that.
let me highlight one
Yeah.
thing because you're talking about where it all started at West Point,
Uh-huh.
continuing to my service in the Army, and three words that people associate with West Point are duty, honor, country. And it's all about character and integrity.
Yeah.
And the name of our brand, Authentically American, that was an intentional choice because when it comes to American made, it's sad, John, and it's really makes me angry when people play games like
Yeah.
designed in the US or assembled in the
Yeah.
US when
Yeah.
very little is done here, and our product is proudly manufactured by American workers in 11 US states. So the
Yeah.
t-shirt we just demonstrated, we make that in Texas. We make some fun, incredibly soft and comfortable socks. We make those in North Carolina. So not China, Bangladesh, Vietnam, all here in the US in 11 states. And to me, that is very authentic because it's made by American workers.
Yeah. Yeah. Not just like designed by them.
No, not, not at all. Cut, sewn, all manufactured here in the US.
Well, that's really cool. So what I always work with people on their origin stories,
Mhm.
and I like to point out to people, for you it's pretty obvious, probably to you even it's obvious, but more obvious than many. you got options. You could be doing something else, like you don't have to be CEOing this company, going through whatever you had to go through to make this all happen, to deal with it. But this is what really inspires you. And I believe that if you look back over your life, there is always a golden thread that's very obvious in hindsight, usually invisible going forward, but obvious in hindsight. What, take me back to your earliest memories of caring enough about America as a country that you would want to become an Army Ranger, and that you would then ultimately start your own apparel brand doing something very difficult, right? Like, what is that thread? How far back can you trace that?
John, it's interesting you mentioned that thread because it's not just one stitch. I
Yeah.
mean, it is the thread that has continued from my time at West Point into the Army. You mentioned Procter and Gamble and Mars, and I'm a man of faith. Christian faith to me is number one. And like you said, I didn't know it back then, but every step on the journey has prepared me to be fair where we're at right now.
Yeah. So what, like, was there an early childhood influence that kind of pointed like you to the Army? Did you have relatives? You know, did something happen while you were growing up that had you say, I want to go to West Point? Like,
This really goes back to high school, John. So I had two goals in high school. Number one, I was a hockey player and I wanted to play Division One hockey.
okay.
And number two, my parents talked about the importance of college education. So I wanted to get the best possible education I could. In the year, so this was my junior year. So before I'm considering which college, West Point was ranked the number one college in the country.
Wow.
And the hockey coach called and said, Dean, we saw you at a tournament. We thought you'd be a great fit for our program. And when I did my research and I did my homework, I'm like, does it get any better than
Yeah.
playing
Wow.
Division One hockey at the number one college in the country? So it was an incredible fit, and that started the journey. And I have to say, John, the 4 years weren't always a lot of fun, especially that
Yeah.
first freshman plebe year. But
Yeah.
look back with absolutely the fondest of memories, and that really started to shape the whole trajectory in my career and where it's gone up until now.
That's cool. Now, I don't mean to pry, but did your parents go to college? Had they had that experience?
So my dad was a college graduate, and he served 3 years enlisted in the army, but
Okay.
there was never a mention like, hey, you should serve. There was never that type of inference.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
just an incredible parents I had, and so thankful for their bringing. And they always encouraged me to pursue my passion, pursue something I love.
That's great. That's great. Well, that's really, really cool. And then you went to West Point, and what was I'm not familiar with it all enough to know, did you become a ranger and then a helicopter pilot? Did you become a helicopter pilot, then a ranger? Did it all happen at once? Like, how did that go?
Well, fun backstory, John. So most people don't realize, how many different options there are within the Army once you graduate from West Point. So
Yeah.
there are 18 different branches, 18 different career paths in essence you can choose. So there's infantry, which is the heart and soul of the Army. There's tanks, there's field artillery, all these combat arms, but there's
Yeah.
also combat support. Think finance, logistics, transportation. So
Yeah.
18 different options. And John, I had narrowed it down to two. One was infantry. If you want to be a general in the Army, infantry is going to be the best way to go. That's where the most generals come from. And the heart and soul of the Army is the infantry.
Yeah.
But you may remember that first Top Gun movie.
I do.
That was
Yes,
one
I
of my
do.
absolute favorite movies growing up. And I thought
Yeah.
I would look super cool in a flight suit. And
At
ultimately, when
least you admit that. Yeah.
and John, on one spectrum of the Army is the flight suit wearing aviator. On the opposite end is, Special Forces, Rangers.
Yeah.
And at flight school, the commander made an announcement and said, hey guys, once in a lifetime opportunity, we're going to have a competition and send one of you to Ranger School.
Wow.
And I thought,
Wow.
well, here is my chance. And I wasn't a great hockey player, but I was all around decent athlete. And I was very fortunate and won that competition and got to
Wow.
see just how miserable, how awful it was at Ranger School. And I'm assuming, John, that most people tuning in have no idea what Ranger School is about. So the quick backstory. So there's a lot of military doctrine and tactics at Ranger School, but at its core, it's a leadership course.
Uh-huh.
And what they do is deprive you of everything you think you need to survive, namely food and sleep, and then put you in incredibly stressful situations. So on day one, there were 340 of us. And
Yeah.
if you make it straight through in 72 days, you live on one meal a day and 2 to 3 hours sleep a night. And then they really crank up the physical, mental, emotional stress, all to push you to a breaking point.
Yeah.
And many people did because we lost
Yeah.
80% of our class. There were
Wow.
340 of us on day one. After 72 days, there were only 70 of us on graduation day. And I'll tell you,
Yeah.
John, I didn't know it back then, but it was great training for leading a startup. No smoke.
There you go.
That's the life I've been living as an entrepreneur.
Yeah, right.
Here's the more important lesson I learned from Ranger School, and it applies to life in general, because being a flight suit wearing aviator, I had no business being in Ranger School, let alone graduating.
Uh-huh.
But day one, you're assigned a Ranger buddy, and your Ranger buddy is there to have your back, to always be there for you. And back then, my Ranger buddy was Marine Corps Infantry Sergeant Roy Backey. And we made a pact and said, you know what? We are going to stick this out. We are going to go ahead and survive and graduate and be there on graduation day. And we took that mission very seriously. And 30 years later, Roy and I still keep in touch. And here's the lesson I learned, John, is that, life can be tough. I mean, it can be incredibly difficult. And when you have those incredibly challenging times, don't do it alone. I
Yeah.
mean, find that ranger buddy in life, find that business partner, your spouse, that good friend that come beside you and really help you through the most
Yeah.
challenging times.
That's awesome.
Mhm.
That's really awesome. So again, like not to pry, but I'm here to
Right
pry.
away. That's
Um,
your job, John.
so thinking back on Ranger School, I mean, it's got to be a lot like, I mean, not exactly, and forgive me if it's a bad comparison, but it's a little bit like becoming a Navy SEAL. You got to go through some really difficult stuff, right?
Oh, big
And
time.
I got to imagine like you didn't give up, but in one of those moments where you were as close as you ever got, will you paint that picture for me? And like, eh, you know, because, I've talked to a lot of Navy SEALs about Hell Week and stuff, and it's usually not the stuff that you'd expect. The really low moment is often different than what you expect, but there's so much to be learned from it.
Yeah. Well, just one quick highlight, John, because there's always a fun rivalry about, who's tougher, the
Yeah.
Army Rangers, the Navy SEALs. And I
Uh,
mean, I've got the utmost respect for anyone there. And generally, what's been described to me is, they're both unique and incredibly challenging, but they're different because you mentioned
yeah.
Hell Week.
Yeah.
To be a Navy SEAL, it's much more of a shorter time frame. Ranger School, there's not 1 week. I mean, there's 72 days that you go
Yeah.
through.
Yeah.
And the only person I know that has gone through both, and he's fairly well known, at least in the veteran community, is David Goggins.
Uh-huh.
And
Yeah. I've
he
heard
went
of
through
David.
both and survived both. And he was asked, well, which one is harder? And I think he echoed the same sentiments, but he said if he had to pick one, it would be Ranger School.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. All right.
But
Well,
to your
all the,
sentiments, John. So we didn't talk about my family yet, but this story that I'm going to mention will tie to my family because literally just yesterday, my wife Kelly and I celebrated anniversary number 31.
congratulations. That's
Well, I
awesome.
appreciate that, and you're just getting to know me, and your audience especially doesn't really know me, and I'm a lot to put up with. So incredibly
Yes. Okay.
for
Extra
love.
congratulations to her, right?
Right. So incredibly thankful for her love and partnership. And I remember when, I said, hey, I want to enter into this competition. I want to go to Ranger School. She's like, Dean, I don't know much about the military, but why? I mean, she'd seen Top Gun with me and like, okay, here's
Uh,
one side of the Army. And then,
yeah.
you're wanting to go the complete opposite side. And it was really like, why? And I got to tell you, John, there were quite a few times when I was absolutely starving, completely exhausted. I was asking myself, why? And there's really two things that drive me is one, wanting to know I make a difference. And we can
Hmm.
talk more about that. And that really ties to our mission. But I really want to be challenged. I really want to be pushed. And I will tell you, looking back at Ranger School, I mean, that is one of those experiences that really pushed me as far to the edge that I've ever been pushed. And it's really that, life lessons, not only a Ranger buddy, but how strong and how resilient God made our bodies to be. I mean, we
Yeah.
can be pushed much, much further beyond anything we ever imagined.
Yeah.
Now, I will say I never want to do it again. A
Yeah.
once in a lifetime opportunity, but so thankful I did it.
Yeah, good. Well, congratulations. That's cool. What did you bring from like ranger school to your flight work? Like what that gave you a unique perspective as a helicopter pilot. What how was that impacting how you were a helicopter pilot that you had that experience?
Well, I guess one quick funny note is, I was wearing a flight suit and had the Ranger tab there, and it's,
Uh-huh.
far less than 1%, probably 0.1% that, have a Ranger tab on a flight suit and got a
Yeah,
lot of funny looks, every
I
minute.
bet. Yeah.
Why is that there? But, the principle around Ranger buddy in life and the principle of teamwork, was
Yeah.
reinforced, in a different way, but in many respects the same way within aviation because, in the aircraft I was flying, you have a co-pilot and then you have a crew chief. And
Mhm.
you can't operate that aircraft effectively if there's just one of you. So it's
Yeah.
the value of teamwork and the three of you. Everybody has their own specific responsibilities. So, that teamwork with Ranger Buddy, really applied within the aviation community as a whole. And when you blow that up across, I mean, Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, as you
Yeah.
know, I mean,
Yeah.
each and every branch of service, has its very own unique mission. And I think what makes the U.S. military so strong is not just one individual element. I mean, it's all of it coming together to form this great nation of this great military of ours.
Yeah. Yeah, I hear that. So, so then you flew helicopters, you served 7 years there. Any did so was there ever a moment in that time when you were just truly scared for like your life, like ever a malfunction or a tough landing or whatever? Like what
Well,
was the most scared you were during that 7 years or one of the most scared times?
John, I was very fortunate because, if you think back historically, the first Gulf War was before I graduated. So I watched that
Uh-huh.
in the day room at West Point. And then the chaotic post 9/11 world we live in was after I got out in
Yeah.
2000. So I was never put into harm's way.
Uh-huh.
And the absolute scariest moment I had was on a cross country flight I had. So I
Uh-huh.
was stationed at the Fort Irwin, the Army's National Training Center.
Yep.
So it's halfway in between Los Angeles and Las Vegas. And we had a cross country mission, that
Uh-huh.
we were flying from, Fort Irwin all the way out to Nellis Air Force Base, which was on the east side of Las Vegas. And I
Mhm.
was flying with CW5 Leon Whitehurst. And I was a young second lieutenant. And I'll share a fun story and then the scariest story because
Okay.
as we're leaving Nellis, he said, hey, sir, what would you think if we requested the strip transition? I'm like thinking, what in the world is a strip transition?
Yeah.
And he did. And they certainly don't allow this anymore. But, He requested and we flew right down the Vegas Strip.
Wow.
I mean, it was incredible. And I still remember flying past the Stratosphere, that hotel, and looking out my window like, we are so close. I'm like, John's there having dinner at the Stratosphere. He's having a steak and it's medium rare. I mean, that's how
Yeah.
close we are. And just
Well, and
flying
that
by.
was pretty
I mean,
cool for everybody that you flew past too. We're like, whoa, that's weird. What was that? Right.
yeah. So that was an incredibly, cool experience. And if anyone's ever made that drive from, Vegas to LA, I
Yeah.
mean, it is wide open desert. I mean, there's nothing there, but there's also mountains everywhere around.
Yeah.
And, we're up about 8,000 feet flying cross country. And it was a rare night because it was fairly cloudy. So there's no moonlight. There was nothing. I mean, it was completely dark
Uh-huh.
and had, no visibility. So we're relying on our instruments. And I still don't know what happened, but we had a malfunction where the engine hiccuped and we dropped, over 100 feet like that.
Oof.
And all I could think about was my wife, and we didn't even have our first child yet. And now, you know what? This is going to be the end.
Yeah.
And
Oof.
I don't know what happened, but miraculously the engine kicked back on. Unfortunately, I was flying with one of the most senior aviators there, and for the next hour back, Leon Whitehurst talked to me about what would have happened if we truly had an engine failure. Because all I could picture was those, mountains all around us and, plummeting down and
Smash.
hitting one of those mountains. And just as calm and cool as collected as can be, he walked me through all this. And I still remember what he said. He said, you know what, Dean, there's some things you train until you get it right. He said, in the business we're in, you train until you can't get it wrong.
Yeah. Wow.
And it
Okay.
just
There you
really
go.
put it into perspective. You know what? The level of precision and detail. And he said, Dean, in the aviation business, I mean, every time you get in the cockpit, your life can be in danger.
Yeah.
And another, life lesson I took away from that flight with CW5 Whitehurst is if you don't have one, you got to find that, senior person in your industry and your business, wherever it means, who's just got incredible life experience because that mentor
Yeah.
relationship is so critical and so important.
Yeah. Yeah. Boy, that's great advice too. Well, okay. Thanks for sharing that. I mean,
Bringing
that's
back
definitely,
flashbacks here, John, of those haunting
yeah.
memories.
Right. Well, yeah. I hope it's nothing bad.
Oh, no.
Um, but yeah, I mean, that's kind of why I asked that question. I think there's always a great lesson, but the fact that you flew a helicopter in the military means there had to be at least one scary moment because
Oh,
like you
it's
just don't get out of that
inherently
without
dangerous
that.
business.
So and just out of curiosity, like in what kind of helicopter were you in?
So the helicopters I were flying were UH-1s, the Hueys.
Yeah, the Huey.
Yep. And John, by far, my favorite flying job at the National Training Center was leading Op 4 aviation. So our Hueys were visually modified to resemble the Russian Hind attack helicopter. We used to fly
Wow.
around on
Okay.
the battlefield hunting tanks and Bradleys. I mean, it was
Uh-huh.
an incredible adrenaline rush.
Yeah.
And fortunately, they weren't real missiles coming back because,
Yeah.
I mean, it was just all training, but an incredible experience, an incredible adrenaline rush.
Wow, that's cool. I mean, and those Hueys they're amazing helicopters, right? Like I mean,
It
they're a
was
little,
a Vietnam era aircraft, but an incredible workhorse. And, you
yeah,
know, being up in the desert mountainous environment, being well over 100 degrees most every day. I mean, it also pushed the aircraft to the edge of its limits.
yeah. Well, and what does happen in a Huey or a helicopter in general? Like if you lose power, like I guess you get one shot at the very end to like do the rotors and maybe not land as hard, but
Uh-huh.
what
So
really
it's,
happens there?
this is one of the things you practice countless times in flight school. It's auto rotate because
Yeah.
if you do lose your engine, like we were when we were flying across Vegas, what you're trained to do is you go ahead and put the collective, which controls the pitch in the main rotor, all the way down, And then you're
Uh-huh.
coming down. And when you get to about 100 feet, you start to nose up and that will start to cushion in. And since you had the collective all the way down, you've still got a little bit of lift. So you can, as you get closer to the ground, pick it up. In essence, you're doing a run on landing,
Yeah, yeah.
which after
So,
you do it a bunch of times there at flight school, you're in a training environment. I mean, not that it was easy, but it becomes fairly routine. Back to
yeah,
practicing until you don't get it wrong.
yeah.
Completely different if it's the pitch black at night, you're in a desert mountainous environment. So I did not
Yeah,
want to put that training into practice.
yeah, no. Good, glad you didn't have to. So, so then, you worked at Mars and Procter and Gamble. I'm sure there's lots of stories there. I know, I know we're getting a little close to our time. What, anything from then that you'd like to share, but then what was what was that moment that had you decide in 2017 to found Authentically American?
Yeah. Well, let me share the backstory because I tell everybody now, John, I'm a veteran and an entrepreneur. But when I left the Army in 2000, I couldn't even spell entrepreneur. I mean, I
Yeah.
had no idea this world existed. And
But you'd
reason
had great training at Ranger School
I did, I did.
to be
But
an entrepreneur.
primary reason being is had an amazing dad growing up, and for 30 years he worked for a Fortune 500 company, and that's what all of his friends, that's what most of our neighbors did. So that's the only world I knew.
Yeah.
So I, in essence, followed my dad's footsteps and worked for Procter and Gamble and Mars, and incredibly thankful for that experience because I worked on big brands like Crest and Tide and M&Ms,
Yeah.
and learned some tremendous insights into building a brand. But
Boy, I
again,
bet.
back to what drives me is wanting to know I make a difference. And in an $80 billion company, just felt like a cog in the wheel.
Yeah. Yeah. I had a feeling that was going to be part of the story.
And that was that initial catalyst to become an entrepreneur. But when you can't spell entrepreneur, John, I didn't think I had it in me to
Yeah.
start a business from scratch. So
Yeah.
I actually entered the entrepreneur ranks through acquisition and bought my first business in 2012. And it's one you've never heard of, but you're familiar with the military. Anyone that's been to a professional sporting event and seen the military with the colors playing the national anthem, I mean,
Uh-huh.
that's the business I bought. Was a government contractor that produced dress uniforms for the military.
Okay.
So that's what exposed me to the apparel industry, and I learned the tragic history, how it went from 50% when I graduated from West Point down to 3% today.
Yeah.
And I was rather naive back then because I didn't really understand how government contracting works. But in essence,
Hmm.
John, it's a bidding process. And I thought I want to win more contracts, but I realized as a bidding process, you don't actually create jobs, it's more of a job transfer. So
Yeah.
if you and I are bidding on a contract and you had it before and I won, in essence, your job's transfer to me and there's
Yeah.
no real job creation.
Yeah.
And that was that light bulb moment for me that said, what if? What if instead of being a government contractor, what if we built a brand? And I thought back to the days of Crest and Tide and M&Ms. And I also thought, what if instead of what 97% of brands do and chase cheap labor overseas, what if we made the intentional choice to produce right here in the US?
Yeah.
And that's where it started in 2017 from a blank sheet of paper with a vision to build this iconic American brand that's truly American made. And I'm exhausted. I mean, it's been the hardest,
Yeah.
most challenging thing I've ever done. But, back to mission and make a difference. I mean, truly am energized about what we're doing.
Yeah. Well, so I mean, the thing that keeps going through my head, and I don't know quite how to phrase the question, but probably all I need to do is get you started. I do read places where when you poll people, they're like, "Oh yeah, I want American made," but then when you actually give them a choice to pay like a dollar more for the same product made here versus made somewhere else, like that, the percentage that say they want it is a lot lower when they got to pay a dollar more or something. So I wonder how that plays into your approach and what you do. And do you see that? And,
Yeah. Well, let me do this. I'll share some specific data, and this is not, apparel specific, but you mentioned it very
yeah,
loud. There's some people, well, let me say, if I asked 100 people, I bet all 100 would say, given a choice of American made, absolutely, I want American
yeah,
made.
Yeah.
But then here's where the differentiation is. There's some people on one end of the spectrum, like, I don't care what it costs. I will choose American made anytime. And they also
Yeah.
have some financial means.
Yeah.
On the opposite end of the spectrum, people would say, well, I want American made all the time as long as it doesn't cost a penny more.
Yeah.
So you average all that out. And generally speaking, the average is a consumer would be willing to pay 12% more than
Okay.
average. And here's what I learned, John, over the last 5 years is sadly, most people don't know where their shirt is made.
Yeah.
And I'm actually okay with that because that gave birth to our tagline, Where's Yours Made? And it's
Uh-huh.
designed to be provocative, like, hey, John, great looking polo, where's yours made?
Yeah.
And we want you to go ahead and next time you put on your favorite shirt or buy a new t-shirt, that you look at the tag and be shocked and disappointed when you
Yeah.
see made in China or made anywhere but the US.
Yeah.
But here's the second thing I learned, John, is most people don't care. I mean, they flat out just don't care.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
for a
Yeah.
while, I got to tell you, I was angry. I mean, I was really upset because I thought everyone was like you. I thought everyone was like me, or many people tuning into this call, either they're a veteran or they're patriotic. And I thought the fact that we were so unique being American made, I thought everyone would love our brand just because of that fact.
Yeah.
But I will tell you, now that I'm over my anger issues, I mean, I've embraced that as a new brand in an ultra competitive apparel industry, we can't be all things to all people.
Yeah.
And niche is now one of my favorite words. And we talked on this early on
Bingo.
about, 90% of our revenue being custom. And if we're going to spend marketing dollars, if we're going to spend dollars on advertising sales, what we've really found is that niche, although most people don't care, one group that does is the veteran.
Yeah.
And veteran owned businesses, veteran focused charities, that's who really loves our brand, like me, has served this great nation of ours. And that is really where we found that unique niche, that point of differentiation. So, when we're on national TV, when we've been on Fox and Friends or MSNBC, I mean, we get, people across all industries across the country. But when we're, targeting our niche, it's that veteran owned business.
Yeah. Well, so, there are like, I mean, I wonder what you would think about this because, I tend to be a reader of the Economist magazine. I particularly like that magazine. And I do think that global trade has been an overall benefit to
Oh, absolutely.
humanity, right? So what, you know, what is it about the fact that you're American made, in the face of the fact that maybe I don't think that you're trying to roll it back so that we don't do any international trade,
Uh-huh.
right? Um, but what is it? And it doesn't have to be anything in particular. It doesn't have to be. It could be anything that's authentic. But what is it about being American made that you think that resonates so much with you, and that also resonates with people who really do care?
And John, I do believe we live in a global economy. And like you mentioned, I mean, global trade is incredibly important. And my overarching view, my overarching belief is in localized manufacturing.
Yeah.
When possible, if you're in the US and it's possible, I mean, support US manufacturing.
Yeah.
If you're in China, I mean, support, Chinese manufacturing. And here's where it's very personal for me because at West Point in the Army, I wore the uniform. And
Uh-huh.
that's a personal, symbology of the oath of office that you've taken, to support and defend the Constitution of the United States. And,
Mhm.
this vest and this dress shirt I'm wearing, to me, it's personal. I mean, everyone
Yeah.
makes a choice in the morning. Okay, what shirt are you going to put on?
Yeah.
And I don't expect that every American in the US is going to respect and appreciate and really like what we're doing, but I don't care. I want to give
Mm.
you, John, and everyone tuning in onto your show, a choice.
Yeah.
If your values align with who we are, if you're an individual and you're just buying for yourself, or you lead a business or you lead a charity, I want to give you a high quality American made choice that never used to exist for you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and I would add that for me, a reason that I would care is, that is also employing Americans here in America. And, I think the downside of all of this international trade, which has a huge upside, and I love the economists and I tend to agree with them a lot, but,
Oh,
um, there's also, you know, it's child slave labor that probably made that some of those shirts in my closet.
absolutely true and very sad, but true.
Yeah. So I love what you're doing, and I also think like the innovations that you brought, like the fun to the sweat activated t-shirt, and I think the softness that is so clearly a piece of what matters to you. I love that it's not America made and lesser quality.
Oh, no.
Like, you know what I mean?
Can I share one more fun product story,
Yeah, please.
which ties to one of the big blessings we've had, and that's around national media coverage.
Uh-huh.
And our very first national TV appearance was on Fox and Friends.
Uh-huh.
And I met back then, he was the host of Fox and Friends Weekend. He's now Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth.
Uh-huh.
And John, I gave him this fun pair of socks. So one's red and white stripes, the other one's blue and white stars, and it's a mixed
Uh-huh.
match. So one red, one blue. And a year later, I was invited back, and this time Pete was interviewing me. And he's like, Dean, it is so great to see you again. I still have the socks you gave me. They're my favorite pair. And I said, Pete, please say that on national TV.
Yeah,
And
right.
he did. And
Yeah,
John, you
right.
can imagine the spike in traffic and sales and to our
Yeah.
website.
Yeah.
But what he said really reinforced a key message. And he didn't mention anything about them being American made. He said they're so soft, so
Yeah.
comfortable. They have this fun patriotic design. But when you
Yep.
have an experience like that, you want to learn more and you read the fine print that says designed in Nashville and
Yeah.
manufactured in North Carolina.
Yeah. That's
And
cool.
that was the overarching point because, again, consumer brand, we've got to deliver an amazing product experience.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and that all blew up for you too. You were in Forbes and you were in Inc. and you were on Fox and you were on MSNBC and NASDAQ and everywhere.
And I can't
So,
afford
that's cool.
that coverage. So, very fortunate
Yeah.
for us to get that media coverage.
Yeah. That's great. That's great. Well, thank you for your service. I know that it's not just service. There's a sacrifice people have to make. And I appreciate that. And I also appreciate talking to somebody who embodies values that I think really matter, like integrity and honor and duty and family, and that you're clear about what matters to you and you have integrity around it. I think that we need more of that.
Well, I appreciate that, John. One, truly was an honor to serve this great nation of ours. And like it, love it, or hate it, to me, it's all about God, family, country. That's where the values line up, and that's who I am.
Yep. That's awesome. And keep on being you. All right. Well, so Dean, thank you. I'm going to get you out so you can get to your next thing.
Well, I
And
appreciate it, and hopefully we have a chance to break bread and catch up and continue this discussion in person.
yeah, I would love that. I would love that. We'll make it happen.
Awesome.
And I do really appreciate you sharing your personal stories with us too. Those things are just that's how we learn and get better as humans, I think, is through those stories.
Oh, absolutely.
So thank you for coming. And thank you for joining us. As I always remind you, none of this makes any difference if you don't listen and you don't share. So thank you for the generosity of your listening today. Please give us a 5-star rating. Give us, some great comments so that other people can find this. And thank you again for joining us. We'll see you next time on Live Like a Leader show. Thank you for joining the Speak Like a Leader podcast. Go be awesome.